Well, what's up, everybody? It is Thursday night, and it's time for the Sports Crib. Um, I'm hoping that my colleagues join me tonight, Mr. Frank Gordon, as well as, excuse me, Bill Carroll. Jeff Jeffrey Fan will be joining us from. Excuse me, let me. Yeah, Jeffrey Fan will be joining us also. Uh, Talk a little ACC sports and see what's coming up there. May even get time to have a little basketball preview. Hoping everyone gets a chance to get in. Let's see. I'm going to send everybody a quick message here. Let's see. Yes, as I was saying before, I had to kind of change things around here because I don't know whether it was due to my ineptness, or maybe I could just blame it on the internet and say that maybe the mail didn't get there in time. So, let them know that they have an email. Okay. I'm hoping I can get Frank and him in, but the first thing I would really like to discuss while I'm here alone is the action of the NBA. Um, it seems, whether you want to agree with what you've heard in the media or what you've seen on Fox News and other places, I think the NBA, excuse me, let me clear my throat here. Okay. Okay. Anyway, what I was saying about uh, the NBA is already talking about, actually, the NBA has already shown um, that it's not afraid to take on social issues. We have a continuance of the demonstration when teams kneeled yesterday um, to protest what was happening uh, in our nation's capital. Um, Also, the NBA has decided to protest against the fact that none of the police were charged in the other young black man shooting. So here is an organization that's not afraid to take on social issues, and they don't restrict the players from wearing political statements. I could give you a further example of the WNBA. The Atlanta, I think they're called the Atlanta Bells, owned by Senator, ex-Senator Loeffler, uh, wore shirts that said, vote Loeffler no. And of course, she did lose the election to the first African American voted senator in the great state of Georgia. Be interesting to see how that plays out for uh, the season when the NBA starts. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is the lost art of defense in the NBA. Every night, I'm looking at a team put up over 100 points. I think the latest I could think of is, of course, Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal puts up 60 points in a loss. Stephen Curry puts up 66. Maybe it's because I come from an era when a team only scored 66 points for the whole game. One player scoring 30 or 40 points was something that was extraordinary. You didn't let a set shooter step out on the wing and have time to take pictures and give him time to set up before he shot a three. We didn't even have threes. Everything was two. Why are we concentrating on scoring more than the quality of the game? I don't really understand that. Let me move these tissues out of the way. I got everything over here. So, where are my brothers? Getting back to what I was saying. It would be, I mean, Will Chamberlain scored 100 points. Okay. We're not going to, well, that for a while I might have said that was something that would be a record that will stand forever. But you can't say that now. It might come to pass. The one thing I will say, it probably won't be someone that plays excuse me, that plays the center position. And you have to remember that, once again, I mean, there were no threes. So, Joel Embiid and all those gentlemen, they have a chance they have a shot at this, you know. 100 points a game. Be interesting to see if anybody in the chat room thinks that that'll happen. Anyway, the chat room is open. I'll answer any questions that you might have, or we can discuss any topic that you throw over here in the chat room. So, um, let's talk a little bit more NBA while I'm waiting for Jeffrey and the boys. Let's see some of the questions that were submitted tonight. Um, The new mask mandate, the NBA. The NBA has started a new mask mandate, mainly due to Mr. Kevin Durant and the fact that he's sitting out now 4 or 5 games. I believe it's four for what they say is coming into contact with someone that had COVID. Um, so now the new mask mandate, we will see players on the bench with masks on unless they're playing. I believe they said everyone on tier one. So I'm assuming that this means all the ball boys, everyone that comes out in contact, the shoot around, the coaches, everyone now is mandated to wear masks unless they are participating in the games. Now, the NBA, as we all know, has done an exceptional job when it comes to the sport and maintaining a COVID policy that has worked. The the NBA bubble has worked when you compare it to everything else that we have tried. When you compare it to baseball, when you compare it to football, uh, our major spectator sports, yes, the NBA has done an exceptional job, with the exception of those that may have decided that they wanted to violate the policies. Um, but on the whole, we see that the NBA is very much dedicated to making sure that their players stay safe, and that when we do have a crowd, if that ever happens, I believe some places are letting smaller crowds in. So it'll just be a matter of time before others will be able to come in. I have to check that. Sometimes I put myself on pause. Anyway, uh, so the new mask mandate is supposedly to prevent stars like Kevin Durant from uh, catching this disease, excuse me, from catching COVID and uh, stopping the spread uh, to the individuals that are involved. They got right on this, and as I was saying, just like with their social media, the NBA tries to address problems as soon as they come up, rather than let them sit back and stew and turn into situations a lot like what we're have to deal with uh, in the NFL. Um, Paul Westphal. Paul Westphal passed away this week. Paul Westphal, I believe, is 70 years old. And I wanted to ask some of my panel if anyone remembered Paul Westphal. Paul Westphal to me was that pesky little guy that you know he, I can't say he was one a joke kid or one of those type. But he was that pesky little white guy that was always in your back pocket. You know he he was annoying, but then you found out that he had a little game too. I used to watch him on Sundays. When we get the basketball games, and having lived in New Jersey and Ohio and Pennsylvania during that part of my life, we saw a lot of Celtics. We saw a lot of what's unsold in Baltimore. So some of those teams don't even exist anymore. The Baltimore Bullets, for instance. Kind of like uh, New Jersey Nets. yeah. Uh, but Paul Westphal was an excellent basketball player, but he was even more of an excellent coach. He was able to get the most out of the young men that actually were under him. Uh, he could be a little fiery. I mean, I'm not going to say he was Popovich or anything like that. I mean, he wasn't Popovich. He wasn't uh, uh, trying to think of some of the guys that came up under his class. Some of the guys that he coached against. Um, wow, really haven't re- re- really trying to pick my brain here. Maybe some of you that are listening, if you can tell me some of the guys that he coached against, that would be great. Um, but our condolences and sympathy goes out to the Westfall family, and as usual, the sports community will miss Mr. Westfall and all that he has given to the basketball as well as the sports community. Okay, Rodney Hood is active. Uh, okay. All right. Let's go a little further here. Uh, I believe it was Monday night. Luke Donich dropped 33 points on the Rockets, outdueling James Harden. Uh, 33 points en route to a triple double. I think he had 16 rebounds, 11 assists, 33 points, and that's a fat Luke. I think Luka Doncic is probably another 2 years before he reaches his prime. Now, it's it's funny in the morning when you listen to Skip and Shannon when they both talk about Luka Doncic. Shannon calls him Baby Bird, referring to Larry Bird, and Skip calls him Baby Sparrow, as in you'll never be the next Larry Bird. Luke has a little punch about him. He's got a little gut there, but he's still young. He's got a chance to play it off. And when you look at Larry Bird wasn't he wasn't exactly a Greek Adonis when it came to having a build. So uh, let's see. Okay, let's see. I'm going to. Okay, I'm back. I am back. I'm actually trying to see if I can get these guys in here. Um, had to try that again. Uh, no, guys, seems okay. I see Frank is here. What's going on there, Mr. Gordon?
Oh, doing all right about yourself today.
Doing fine, doing fine. Glad to see that you were able to get in. I was talking a little bit about the new NBA mandate for face masks. What was your thoughts on that?
Well, we're looking at something where, if that's where we're going to go, that's where we're going to go. Now, the problem is you've got people on the court running around and all that, and then suddenly you're going to say, but once you get off the court, now you got to wear the face mask. Now you wear them there. It seems kind of redundant, but I understand what they're trying to do.
If it hadn't been Kevin Durant, do you think that we would have had this change in policy?
Well, that's a good point. Um, what you're looking at is how do you take care of the stars, and how do you make sure the people that are bringing you money stay on the air? You know, and that's the key. Or stay on the air, stay on the you know where you're playing. So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make sure that the I guess I don't want to be too cynical about it, but you're trying to make sure the money keeps working. And
More,
that's hey, if you got Kevin Durant out, that's not a good thing.
another issue I had touched upon was the fact that the independence that the NBA gives its stars for social issues. I mean, we've already seen last night teams kneeling because of the incidents that happened in D.C., uh, which to me was very extraordinary because, I'm just telling the truth. If that had been a crowd of black people, then you would have seen machine guns in the street. At
Sure,
least,
right.
that's the way I feel. You don't necessarily have to share that opinion, but that's the way I feel. What do you think about the fact that the NBA gives the players, that liberty? If I guess when you consider the way other sports treated, I guess that's why I use the word liberty, even though to me it's a right. But you know,
Well, you have to look at the history from David Stern through Adam Silver. They're they have done a very good job of um, working in lockstep with the players. I think you people may disagree with that, but I think also because it's a money thing as well, and I don't want to overstate that, but I think that with David Stern and then Adam Silver, it's like let's give the players the freedom to be themselves. Yet you just can't put anything on your jersey, you just can't put anything on your shoes. So it's not like it's complete freedom, but it is better than saying you can't do this, you can't do that. You're not gonna sit there and say you have to have your hair cut like this, you got to wear your clothes like that. They embrace the players and their individualism, and also the fact that a lot of players are very politically active and socially active. So they embrace that. Again, there are also some stipulations to what they can do, but they do say, hey, we're built on this league. We have to let these guys be themselves. You can't rein them in because if you do, it's just blah, blah, blah. And I think the other sports leagues have started to take on that effect as well. You see more freedom in the NFL. You see more freedom in Major League Baseball and hockey. But it started with David Stern saying, I have to ride with these guys. I have to embrace what they do and who they are, and they have a voice. And let's face it, you've brought some very intelligent people into the NBA. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they've come from various backgrounds, but they all have that same common, we are part of a community. And I think they've embraced that with the ownership and I think that's why you saw such a big problem with Donald Sterling. It's like, you don't care about us. Well, most of the owners seem to care about the players, or at least foster that idea because, hey, I'm paying you millions of dollars. I at least am going to listen to what you have to say and give you a platform to say what you want to say.
yeah, uh, I don't think Isaiah Robinson or Wes Unseld would have actually been able to wear Black Lives Matter on their
Exactly.
shirts.
Exactly.
So yeah, but like that's why I did say liberty, and even though I consider it a right, I understand it's all about business. But then you talk about individuals, and one of the best uh, one of the best things that I saw this last week was Luka Doncic's 33-point performance when he outdueled James Harden. Um, what did you think about his what was it, 33, 16, and 11
Right. Right.
performance Monday night? is I mean this we had talked about how he's getting off to this kind of sluggish start, but you know once again you're talking about a guy that went deep into the playoffs as consider as opposed to I don't know what edition of James Harden we have right now, but you can. But, just on the surface, and what did you think? Is Luke all that we're making him out to be?
Well, I've been doing a little NBA history kind of reset for the last couple of months, trying to put some things together. And I've gone back as far as the draft where Bill Walton was taken in 1974 by the Trailblazers. Just for a project I'm working on. And as I've progressed through the last 40 some almost 50 years, I've noticed a trend. The best players usually aren't the best athletes. The best players usually in the NBA aren't the guys that run and jump and dunk over everybody. And when they said we're bringing this kid in, Luka, the teenager, like, oh, you guys have made a mistake. Now I know Mark Cuban thinks he knows what he's doing, and he kind of hit on Dirk Nowitzki and some of these other. No, this is not going to work out. He's going to be overmatched, overwhelmed. Unless he's a stud athlete, he's going to be playing. He's a poor man's Larry Bird. That was my initial thought. I think he might be eventually, and this is blasphemous, I know that, he might be better than Larry Bird when he's done. That's saying a lot. That is saying a lot. I was not sold on him to begin with, but you can put him on the court with anybody right now, and he finds a way to get the job done. He may not have to score 30, but he may. He may not have to get 20 boards, but he might. He may not have to throw out 15 dimes, but he can. And he finds a way to make plays, and him and James Harden kind of plays the same kind of game, but James Harden, everybody stands there and says, well, when you're done messing with the ball and you want to give it to me, I'll take it. Not that James Harden is a ball hog, but he has to be ball dominant. Whereas Luka has the ball, then he doesn't have the ball. Then he kind of slides to a spot and he finds a spot and he knows the next angle, the next pass. And if you get it to him, he's going to make the next pass. Not much flashy about him, but he can be flashy. I think a down game for him, they can still win the game because he may not put up the numbers. A down season for him, they can still get to, it's going to be hard to say get to the finals, but make a deep run of the playoffs because he doesn't have to put up numbers yet. He still does. I'm amazed because you look at him and go, but he's not doing anything. And that's the key. He's not doing much, but he's doing a lot. And he's very impressive. And unless you don't know the game, you don't see what he's doing because it's subtle little things there. He sees a spot here. He sees an opening there. He knows when he needs to take the shot. He knows who's hot. He knows his teammates, who needs the ball where, who catches the ball where. All those things, and watch him play in an all-star game or something like that, he still knows those things. He's a basketball savant. I guess that's the best way of putting it. And without a ton of athletic ability, compared to most of the guys in the league, if he's playing against, in my park, yeah, he's a great athlete, but he's playing against guys in the NBA that can run and jump and fly and all that. No, he doesn't need all that. So I think he's one of those guys where you put him out there and you have to be able to do like they did with Magic Johnson. You got to throw a Byron Scott or a Rambis or a Michael Cooper out there so he doesn't have to work his butt off on defense and can make a few steals off the ball. Or that's what they did with Larry Bird as well. But I think that when you see him matched up with someone and you say this is the matchup, he's going to win it.
Yeah, I believe you're right. That's to welcome in Mr. Jeffrey Fan. Jeffrey, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Glad to be on with you guys.
Jeffrey, we were talking a little basketball there to start out with, but since you're here and, there's a couple things that I want to talk about, and I'm going to start out talking about number 12, Clemson. Um, oh, no, that's right. They were number two. I'm sorry. Anyway, uh, anyway, two things that went awry, Jeffrey. It seems to me. Number one, Clemson is not in the playoffs, and number two, Notre Dame. Not that a lot of us, really, when we saw the matchup, Notre Dame and Alabama, we kind of knew what was happening. But I thought that, especially with them coming into the ACC, there were kind of inspirations of everybody wanting them to pull that upset, go, for old Luke and the whole 9 yards. So you want to start talking about Clemson and Notre Dame?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to take the good, you got to take the bad with the good, and it was pretty bad last week in the ACC. I'll start with Notre Dame, just because, like you said, James, no one really expected that they would beat Alabama. So the game pretty much went about on schedule. You could see the week before or a couple weeks before when Notre Dame had played Clemson, fully equipped Clemson, that they just didn't have the athletes to match up with a Clemson. That quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, and when it got to be Alabama, who's better than Clemson is this year, and that group of wide receivers. I mean, if you watch the college football award show tonight, it was basically a who's who of Alabama football players. They won like 5 or 6 national awards, and Devonta Smith and Mac Jones and Najee Harris, and Notre Dame just can't match up with that kind of talent. As good as Notre Dame is, and they're very good. They were definitely a legitimate playoff team. They're definitely. I think it was correct that they were in the playoff as the 4th best team. But when you're trying to compete with the Alabamas and the Ohio States and even the Clemsons, you got to have everything go perfect. You have to play perfect. You've got to have them make mistakes, because you're not going to be able to out athlete teams like that, and not this Alabama team with that offense. And that just didn't happen. Notre Dame was just outmanned in that game. But I think overall, they're definitely one of the top 6 or 7 programs in college football. It was very beneficial to the ACC to have them in the conference this year. The ACC championship game drew huge ratings when they played earlier in the year. It drew huge ratings. I think those were 2 of the highest rated college football games of the entire year. But if I was listening to ESPN radio today, and they were talking to Tom Luganbill, and if Notre Dame, he was saying if they want to be able to get to that level of really being able to win a playoff game, they've got to get those kind of special athletes across the board that they have at those Alabamas and Ohio States. Those blue chip players, they're very well coached, but when you get matched up against another team that's very well coached but's got better players than you do from top to bottom, you're just not going to come out on top very often. But overall, I think it was a success of them being in the I know the ACC would be happy to have them. To Clemson, that was the one that was a little bit more disappointing. I think a lot of people felt like they could, we're going to be the team that was going to play Alabama, that they could compete with, definitely compete with Ohio State, and they were just bullied on the field at the line of scrimmage by Ohio State. And what was probably the most shocking aspect of the game, and as I was watching it, had me very concerned from the get-go, was the confusion that Clemson had defensively. Usually Brett Venables has an eye for what's going to happen on the other side of the ball, and there was complete confusion several times in that first half. You had Clemson players yelling at each other to get into position, to get lined up, and then the next thing you know, an Ohio State player is running completely wide open, in the middle of the field, and it's definitely Ohio State matches, and in some places better than Clemson, but that wasn't a matter of being out athleted like Notre Dame, Alabama. That was definitely a matter of Ohio State being more prepared for that game, and just coming out with a game plan that had Clemson defensively just completely off their heels and confused. And I think Clemson's going to have to kind of look at that in the off season, what they're going to do. This is the second year in a row where they kind of got torched defensively, and I'm sure Brett Venables is looking at that and kind of wondering, what happens. It's one thing when it's Joe Burrow and that LSU offense. It's another one when it's a Ohio State team as good as they are. That was a Justin Fields quarterback who he's extremely talented, but he had not played that well the entire season until that game, and they were just receivers running open all over that field. So I think Clemson's definitely got to look at what they're doing defensively, because I think teams are starting to adjust to Venables' play calling, especially the better teams who can match athletes. And I think Clemson's going to also need to really look at some of, in their back seven, are they athletic as they need to be? I mean, they didn't have a Patrick Surtain from Alabama. They didn't have a Sean Wade back there like from Ohio State. They don't really have shutdown corners, and they're not really that athletic at safety, at linebacker, not even as they were maybe 2 or 3 years ago when they did win the national championship. So that's something that I think, has to be solved with recruiting. But yeah, it was bad. There's no other way you can say about it.
So, what's next for Notre Dame and Clemson? Like you said, I mean, you would love to have them in the conference. So, does this kind of cement, negotiations with the ACC? Have you heard any more rumblings since then? And of course, when we talk about Clemson, we have to talk about Trevor Lawrence saying that he's going to opt out and, of course, go to the NFL. So, how would you address those two?
Yeah, I don't. There's nothing immediate on the horizon about Notre Dame joining. I think they're definitely going to be independent next year, and I think they will be independent for the near future. But a couple of things I think Notre Dame has to consider going forward. They did draw a huge amount of eyeballs playing in the ACC. They were able to sustain a loss during the course of the season and still make the playoff, which would not be possible if they were independent. I think it's pretty clear that they've got to run the table each year to make the playoffs. And the other thing I think Notre Dame has to consider is, and this is the point that Luganbill made this afternoon. I thought it was a really good point. If Notre Dame's going to increase their talent level, they've got to make inroads into the Southeast, into the recruiting hotbeds like Florida and Georgia. And, the ACC's got a footprint in there. So I think, for them to be able to recruit at a level that they need to, I mean, Ohio State can recruit nationally. They can recruit in the South. They get athletes from all over. But, Notre Dame can't quite do that. And no one really from the Midwest is doing it either. Ohio State's really the only team that's competing at that level. Notre Dame has to look at what they want to be over the next 10 years. If they want to be a good program, maybe make the playoffs from time to time, but lose to the Alabamas and the Clemsons, I think, that's what you'll get when you stay independent. But I think joining the ACC as a full member will give them inroads into recruiting, especially into the Southeast. So they really love their independence, and that's a fact. That they build their whole identity around it. I think it's a very outdated model. I don't think you have to be, Notre Dame's going to be on TV nationally if they're in the ACC. They're going to, just we saw with the ratings I was telling you about earlier. I don't really think you increase your brand being an independent the way you once did. All of the top programs are in a conference, so I think if Notre Dame wants to commit to competing at the highest level, they'll join the ACC here in the next few years. But they do love their independence, and right now it's hard to say what way they're leaning. I really don't know which way they're leaning, but I know they were happy with how it went this year. As far as Clemson, yeah, Trevor Lawrence declared for the draft. That wasn't surprising at all. He's going to be the number one pick, and really no reason for him to come back. He's won a national title, a couple playoff appearances, all the ACC titles. The only thing that could have made him come back is maybe, wanting to win the Heisman, but that really doesn't make sense. If he comes back and he injures himself, something like that. So no surprise there. I think Clemson's going to be in good hands at quarterback. Of course, following, behind Deshaun Watson, and then Kelly Bryant was there in the middle. But then after Trevor Lawrence, DJ Uiagalelei, I think is his name. You saw how he played against Notre Dame earlier in the year, and he had a hurt shoulder in that game, so he wasn't able to run the way he normally does. So I think Clemson's going to be fine at quarterback. I'm more concerned, with that secondary, and they're gonna find out right away where they stand, because they're gonna open the season next year with Georgia. So we'll find out right away if Clemson's going to be a national contender right from game one. But I think at quarterback they're going to be just fine.
Well, now let me ask you another question. I'm going to address this to Don. How you doing, Don? Good seeing you finally got in, man. It was like it was like trying to break into jail, wasn't it?
Yeah, the link went to my spam. Yeah, I clicked on the spam and it still wouldn't let me in, so I had to reboot my computer, and voila, here I am. Right, sorry about that, guys.
No, don't worry about it.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Yeah, joyous New Year to everybody. Sorry about that. I'm glad you reminded us, Don. But I'm going to address everyone with this question, and of course, I'm going to start with you, Jeffrey. It's true that Trevor came out, but would he still came out if the Jets had lost that game? Jacksonville, I'm not saying that it's the Jets, but hey, it's a little warmer. You do have a little bit more of a foundation to build upon, but what's your thoughts on that, Jeffrey? Like you said, maybe you could have stayed back and won the Heisman, but if it had been the Jets or the Heisman, do you still think that he would have opted for the Jets?
I think he probably would have still came out. He never really kind of made any clear statements on that, but I have a feeling he was kind of relieved that it turned out to be Jacksonville, where he'll end up. It's closer to where his family is. I think Jacksonville might not be the rebuilding job that the Jets are. He's got James Robinson there at running back, so he's already got a really young, talented running back to play with that's gonna, help his progress. So I think if you would ask him, if he ever gets asked in an interview later, and he tells you what he really thinks, I think he's gonna say he was relieved that he's going to Jacksonville, but then to the Jets. But I'm not sure that would have kept him out of going back to Clemson or anything. I think he would have still came out.
What do you think, Don?
I think he was coming out regardless of where which team is in pole position. I don't think I think Trevor is a little bit more willing to give a shot anywhere in the NFL. I don't think he's. I mean, yeah, we all want to sign with Baltimore or Pittsburgh or one of those teams, but or even Cleveland now. But the lesser franchises are going to take a little time to build, like we saw in Cleveland, Baker Mayfield. So I think Trevor is willing to step in and help whatever team drafts him become successful.
What do you think, Frank?
Well, there are two issues here. One, is he a competitor? Yes. So a competitor thinks they can do anything anywhere. So it's a challenge to go to a team, especially as a quarterback, and make it rise up and become a better team, get to the playoffs, get to the Super Bowl. Two, are they going to pay him? I think they're going to pay him. So I don't think he's too concerned about that. So I go back to, and I'll go back ways. When Jimmy Jackson came out after his junior year at Ohio State playing basketball. Jimmy Jackson's on Fox all over the place. Played on 12 NBA teams, moved around a lot. The question was, are you going to come out this year? He said, yeah. Well, why wouldn't you wait until you have a chance to, do very well? It's like, because I'm not going to make up this year's salary at any other time. I'm going to be a top 5 pick, so they tell me. So what I'm going to be, better next year? He wound up going number 3. He could have went number 1 the next year. You never know. He went number 3, got paid. There are two issues that we have to consider. One, it's what we see as fans, that can they be competitive? Can they get the team to where they want to go and all of that? And I think if you are a competitive player, just like when you ask the question, do they tank this game? The players don't tank games. It doesn't happen that way. They could care less about, well, we need to tank this game to get to it. They're not worried about that, because if they do, Tua might replace them or whomever. So they're out there trying to play the game and play their butts off. And if you try and tank a game, you get hurt, usually. You have to play to your utmost ability. And the second thing is, again, they're going to throw a contract at him that he's not going to be able to worry about. He's going to say, I can play through this contract. There's going to be guaranteed money. If things don't work out, someone's going to look at me if I don't stink up the joint. With the exception of maybe a Dwayne Haskins in the last couple of years, you've got guys jumping around all over the place. They're going to, Mariota, they're going to find a spot for him. Jameis Winston, they're going to find a spot for you if you were one of the top-notch quarterbacks. And the situation, you can't help the situation, so you might as well come out and go number 1.
Okay. Jeffrey, we had been kind of, at the beginning of the season, we were kind of spoon-fed, it's going to be Justin Fields or it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. Those are your Heisman picks. We briefly talked about a couple of defensive linemen, but we see this year all of a sudden the wide receiver drought is over. Alabama wide receiver gets the Heisman Trophy. Jeffrey, your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. And I know some people that were trying to defend Trevor and say, well, if he hadn't have missed the 2 games with the COVID, but even during a year like that, when a player is out for a couple games for any reason, even when they're hurt, it really impacts the kind of stats they can put up. And so with that said, and then with the stats that some of the other quarterbacks were putting up, like Trask and Mac Jones, I think it would have been it was getting kind of hard for Trevor to break through. And then for those who probably had not voted yet, you kind of saw how he played against Ohio State. He wasn't brilliant in that game. In fact, Justin Fields really outplayed him. So I didn't have a problem with it. Devonta Smith was that probably the toughest competition for winning the Heisman was from his own team, Mac Jones. But he had a fantastic season, and especially with Waddle going out during the middle of the year, and then he becomes the dominant receiver on Alabama's team and that incredible offense. I think he was definitely a worthy winner, and I'm kind of looking forward to see how he matches up with Wade there at Ohio State. They're already talking a little bit in the press. That's going to be a great matchup on Monday.
Yeah. Both guys talking a little trash there too. What do you think, Frank?
Well, I think you found the best player. He had the best season. He put up the best numbers. He was the most important player to his team. Hard to say that when you've got a quarterback throwing the ball, but he couldn't be stopped. And when you can't be stopped at a wide receiver in a passing system, passing league, passing experience that we have now, that's very impressive. And like I said, you line up anybody against him so far, he couldn't be checked. And I don't know where Shaun Wade is running his mouth, because I don't think Shaun Wade's got a chance. And I'm an Ohio State guy. So this is a good player. And if they isolate him on the outside, there's not much anybody can do right now in college football. So that's where you go. You get the best player.
Yeah, you got to have somebody over the top for him. I'm sorry.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Don, what's your thoughts on our Heisman Trophy winner here?
I had no problem with that, and I didn't really have a dog in this race, but I thought Alabama had two guys. Well, you throw in three guys that were probably possible. But what really impressed me though was his acceptance speech, where he was talking about keep working hard, keep trying. That was, I think, something that young people need to hear in this day and age. And I was just impressed with him as an individual. So consider me a fan for right now.
Guys, I want to start with the coaching carousel here. So, Don, right now you make the most interesting choice. You went from you've hired Mr. Sarkisian. What's up?
I guess back several years ago, I figured Sarkisian would be stuck being an assistant somewhere, that he'd never have a head job again. And now here he is at Texas. Everything I've heard from our fan base and, from people that I know, who are a little bit closer to that than I am, they said that he's actually he's been sober for, I think, 6-7 years now. He's dealt those demons, and he's been working wonders at Alabama, of course. I mean, they put up some golly numbers, and right now he's assembling a staff. He's taken, I think, 3 or 4 assistants from Alabama, who they'll be coaching their last game for Alabama on Monday. He got the offensive line coach, Flood, I believe is his name, and he's putting together a pretty remarkable staff. He for special teams, he has Blake Gideon, who was letterman at Texas back when Colt McCoy was playing, and so I'm cautiously optimistic about this. There's some things about Texas. They talk about the culture at Texas and the entitlement attitude that they have. And I'm a Texas guy, and I can say this. I just wonder if Sarkisian's coaching can overcome some of that. We're Texas, we don't have to work hard, because we're getting beat by TCU and Iowa State. That's not going to work in the Big 12. I mean, it should be every year. It should be Texas or Oklahoma at the top, and it's getting kind of like Ohio State, Michigan, and we're not Ohio State. We're more than Michigan right now. So I'm thinking Sarkisian will do a wonderful job. He got a good Derek Kurtstetter. I've talked about Derek Kurtstetter before. He's a family friend, actually, lives down the street. He was the starting center, and he dislocated his ankle against Kansas State, and he was a senior, 4-year starter. Well, he's getting extra eligibility, and he is coming back, so that just makes Texas that much better. Bijan Robinson, electric running back. I mean, he's kind of like Ricky Williams with speed, and so that's Sarkisian already said he's going to be the feature back. So things are looking up for Texas right now.
Jeffrey, you want Auburn or South Carolina?
Yeah, I'll take South Carolina then, because that's the one we follow in this area the most, and that I would say the Shane Beamer hire did not to be honest, it did not strike fear in Clemson fans or anyone really in the region. He has a good pedigree. Frank Beamer's son. He's got a lot of assistant coaching experience, but he's not the hire that people expected. I think at South Carolina, I think they were looking for a bigger name with more head coaching experience. But that shouldn't always, that head coaching experience isn't always a prerequisite. We know what Dabo Swinney's done without any head coaching experience. So a lot's going to depend on how Shane Beamer forms his staff. South Carolina it's a tough job. It really is, because even though they're sitting right there in the South, we talked about Southern recruiting. They can't out recruit, the Georgias. They can't out recruit the Alabamas, the Auburns, the Florida States, the Miami, the Clemsons. They can't recruit their own region very well, and they have to have the state of South Carolina be talent rich, which was what helped Spurrier during his run to get the Javavian Clowneys and the Melvin Gordons and the Lattimores, kids that were close by in South Carolina. During that time, South Carolina actually had some pretty good talent, but in most years, South Carolina, the state, does not produce a lot of blue chip football players. And so it's very difficult for South Carolina to go into Georgia and Florida and pull those players out and try to compete with the Alabamas and those recruiting powerhouses. Plus you're in the same division as Georgia and emerging Florida. I would say Tennessee, but we can't figure out what's going on with there. They always seem like they should be able to turn it around, and they just can't. But you still got to always deal with Georgia and Florida, and now you play Clemson every year. It's just a really difficult job to get over the hump. I think they'll look back in 20 years and see what Spurrier did is one of the more remarkable coaching jobs that we've seen to turn that South Carolina program into a top 10 team in the earlier part of the decade for a little while there. But Shane Beamer was not the home run hire on the surface that they were hoping for. He's going to have an uphill battle. That's for sure. He may succeed, but on paper, right out of the gate, it doesn't really concern a lot of programs.
Well, Frank, that leaves you with Boise State's Brian Harsin. And he's the new coach there at Auburn. But is Auburn striking fear into anybody in that conference?
Not yet, but let's look at this. Okay, Boise State has their tradition of being unconventional, getting recruits from places where no one expects them to come from and turn them into players. This may be the perfect hire for them because excuse me. If you're going to try and go up against Alabama with conventional weapons, you're going to get slaughtered. It's not going to happen. Alabama's too established. They do things too well. It's not going to happen that way. You're not going to be able to go through the state of Alabama and around that region and go, why don't you come here? Why go to Alabama? Yeah, I know, but they're going to have to be a little bit, some JC players here, some transfers there. I'm going to make an analogy that's going to seem weird, but I'm going to make the analogy that he's going to have to be like Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders isn't saying we're going to get all the blue chips, we're going to try, but we're going to turn players into, that didn't fit here, didn't fit there. We're going to turn them into players and get to the league. That's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to get that third-string quarterback from TCU. He's going to have to get that backup running back from Boston College. He's going to have to find the diamonds in the rough, and that's what they did at Boise State. And he's going to have to go head-to-head with Alabama. First year or two is going to be tough. I get that. But once he gets his staff established and gets people to understand, hey, we're the underdogs, and we're going to go get it. And once they start doing that, and the underdogs started understanding, it's kind of where we were talking about where South Carolina was for a couple of seasons there, where they had a transfer from here, a transfer from there. You never know. Is it the way that you would want to do it ideally? Probably not. But going up against Alabama and the rest of the SEC head-to-head, it's going to be tough. So I think it's a heck of a hire. I think he's going to come in and he's going to establish what he's going to do. He's going to put out the welcome mat and say, come on, guys, we got a shot here. You feel like you didn't quite get the job done where you were? You want some playing time? We've got it for you.
Well, we'll see. Bold predictions there for everybody. Jeffrey, why don't you give us your breakdown of Monday night's game, your prediction, and your final thoughts for the evening? Good having you on the program. This is just our first of the new year. Actually, I think it's our second. No, it's our first. And we look forward to having you on many more. And hey, let's see what happens with the basketball season.
Yeah, as always, enjoy being on the show and chatting with you guys. Yeah, for Monday night, that's going to be a tall order for Ohio State. Justin Fields was just a warrior. This past weekend, I was so impressed with the way he played after getting that shot in the ribs, and even though I was rooting for Clemson, I just kind of marveled at how he played in that game, and it's going to depend on his health. If he's really 100%, it gives Ohio State a chance, but Alabama just, and now they're saying Waddle might be available for the game. They just got so many weapons on that offense. I think it's comparable to what LSU was doing on offense last year. I'm not sure if it was quite that good, but it's comparable, and that's going to be a really tall order for Ohio State to try to slow them down. Ohio State is really good, really good team, but I don't know if they've got enough on the defensive side to slow Alabama down, and even on Alabama's other side of the ball defensively, it's not a vintage Alabama team, but they're pretty good. I mean, you've got to have a really explosive offense to move the ball on them, kind of like what Florida was able to do. And I don't know if Ohio State has that kind of, I know they got Olave and Sermon there at running back, but I don't know if they've got enough explosiveness to stay there with Alabama, especially if Fields is not 100%. They got a puncher's chance, but I think it's going to be a stretch for them to pull that off. But I'm looking forward to the game. They were the two best teams come the end of the season. There's a ton of blue chip talent all over the field. I think I saw something that there's going to probably be 10 or 15 future NFL players from that game. So there's going to be a ton of talent on that field. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, you can find me on at Talking ACC Sports on Twitter. Check out the blog allsportsdiscussion.com. where we're blogging about ACC sports. We're quickly turning the page from football because it ended so badly for the ACC. They kind of flopped in bowl season. We moved on to basketball already. But looking forward to ACC basketball. They don't really have a top 10 team, that's up there with like the Gonzagas and the Baylors here, but there's a lot of I think it's 9 and 10 deep of tournament quality teams, just not an elite team. So it should be a good basketball season in the ACC.
Well, as usual, Jeffrey, thank you for your time, man. And like I said, we look forward to talking with you very soon.
Right, looking forward to it too, guys. Thanks a lot.
So Don, me and Frank are both Buckeye fans, so I think it's kind of obvious who we're going for. It's kind of like wishful thinking, wish in one hand, and what you do in the other. But what's your take on Monday night, Don?
Well, Ohio State has their work cut out for them Monday, but that's why you play the game. Ohio State looked damn good against Clemson. I mean, that the running back, the transfer from what's his name, Sermon from Oklahoma. I'm glad he's at Ohio State because I don't have to see him against Texas. I mean, but Alabama's going to be favored, underdogs, but it would not surprise me to see Ohio State take them down to the wire. And I think if they keep it close, they can win it. Ohio State, if you're looking for that diamond in the pile of shit, well, here's the thing about Ohio State. They've played 7 games. They're not worn down and tired like Alabama. I mean, fresh legs can, that can be to an advantage. So, I wouldn't lose faith in the Buckeyes just yet.
Frank, what do you think if we can keep Alabama to 24 under?
Well, what you're going to have to do as Ohio State, first of all, it comes down to your offensive line. There's your key right there. If your offensive line can get Trey Sermon moving, you got a shot because that keeps Alabama off the field. So, and even though they're a quick strike team, they can score as quickly as possible. The less they're on the field, the better they are, especially if Ohio State capitalizes on some long drives. So it's going to have to be the offensive line against Alabama's defensive line, which isn't a vintage Alabama defensive line, but it's still not bad. But if they can get Sermon to the second level, he's proven to be pretty tough to bring down. So if you can do that and extend drives and then your play action game starts to work out, you'll be okay. Defensively, we're going to find out what Sean Wade's made of. He's talking some mess. They're saying he's one of the best DBs in the country, all of that. But then on the other hand, they're saying he plays soft. He doesn't play off, or he plays off. So we're going to have to figure out if he can play the Heisman Trophy winner man-to-man. There's a big if. But if he can play the Heisman Trophy winner man-to-man, and they don't get some help from players that weren't playing before, they've got a shot. If they've got to play, cover and a half, man on top, a whole bunch of other things, that's going to be tough. But if Ohio State can handle the running game, their running game, and they can keep control of the clock, as Don said, they've got a chance to be in it at the end. But if it becomes a shootout, even though they are a team that's scores prolifically, I still think they can keep track of what Alabama can do. Boom, 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 boom. They're going to have to play a more conservative game, I think, for Ohio State. But, like you said, puncher's chance. It's possible.
Yeah, I do like that that analogy. Let's see, just a couple of basketball questions before we take on the NFL, because actually one of them really has a lot to do with Houston, and of course James Harden. Frank, do you think that everybody's looking for that big blockbuster deal? Like the one that we've seen them before. Do you think that there's going to be a big deal for James Harden? Are we going to see one of these big blockbuster trades, guys going everywhere, and eventually Harden ends up running? I mean, with another team.
Well, and I'm sure Don can attest to this better than I can since he's down in the area. I don't know what the value is for James Harden. I can't figure it out because you have a guy that can put points on the board, but my perception, that other people's perception is that's all you're getting from him. He may throw a few dimes here and there, but it's because he had to. If you hold the ball for 12 seconds of the shot clock and three guys come at you, well, yeah, you're going to pass the ball to somebody that's open. Other than that, I don't see it happening. I also don't see a happy guy, a guy that's disgruntled, that's not going to come into your team and go, oh, it's a breath of fresh air, let's go. So I don't know what his value is, and I don't know what another GM sees his value as. Or more accurately, what are you going to give up for him? Are you going to give up young players? Are you going to give up draft picks? What do you have to offer Houston that Houston thinks it's fair compensation for you or for them, and then you think it's fair compensation for you? I'm getting James Harden. Well, if I'm going to go out and get James Harden, that means that's going to put us over the top and we're going to win it all. I'm not going out to acquire James Harden. Yeah, I know you're shaking it. I'm saying the same thing. You're not going to acquire James Harden to just make the playoffs, right? You're going to acquire James Harden to get a ring. I don't know if that's what James Harden's going to give you. So when I hear who's going to do what, he's not going to like Detroit. He's not going to Charlotte. Where's he going to go? The Clippers? Who is poised to make a run and is going to take that on and to have assets to give up? I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot of noise, and I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Houston, you're stuck with it.
Don, anything down there in the San Antonio press? I know, they're probably more concentrating on the fact that Miss Harmon coached the games, and they're thinking about the beard. But anything going on in the sports
Well,
section down there?
Yeah, going back to James Harden and just kind of build what Frank said. If you look at some of the players who come available, Kawhi Leonard. When Kawhi Leonard came available, everyone, we want Kawhi Leonard, We knew he was going to California. We knew if he was going to Lakers, Clippers, Kings, whatever. But everyone wanted Kawhi Leonard. He wanted back in Golden State. Kevin Durant, with ruptured Achilles. Even with the ruptured Achilles, people wanted Kevin Durant. Okay. Then you got James Harden. No one is really, you don't hear a lot of buzz. Hey, well, we want this guy on our team. Especially because, in football, we say defense wins championships, but that also applies to basketball and baseball. And dude didn't play.
Lack thereof,
yeah. You can play defense and dominoes too. But anyway, he's not gonna put forth that effort. So I don't know. Spurs, Becky Hammond made history, first female to coach a game. Popovich, I'm pretty sure Popovich probably had to go take a shit or something. He said, "I'm going to technical. I'm going to get thrown out. I'm about to make history. You're in charge." Because usually he tells Duncan take it, but he specifically pointed to Hammond this time. So that is what it is. The Spurs, they're not going to be. I'm just hoping the Spurs are competitive at times, and they have been. But I don't think Spurs will be making the postseason this year. And we really haven't said her a whole lot, but this is probably going to be Popovich's final go. It's starting to show in his interviews. I mean, he's kind of lost that passion. He used to give interviews and they'd have to bleep out stuff, and when you're not having to bleep out stuff and when he talks, then it's probably a sign that he's mellowed, and you can't be mellow in the NBA. So
like you said, it seems like Pop is on his way out. but we never hear a lot from San Antonio anyway, so that's not going to change.
Been a
Uh,
few years, hadn't it?
uh, Frank, let's talk about the East here for a brief minute. Do you think that this year we might see two New York City teams in the playoffs? And there's only two. That's got to be the Nets and the Knicks. I mean,
I was going to say, is St. John's playing? Look, I know a lot of Knicks fans, and they're still Knicks fans. And I've known them for a long time, and they're still Knicks fans. So I don't want to rain on this parade whatsoever. And Julius Randle's balling. So let's point that out right now. Julius Randle was playing the way he was supposed to when he came to the league. So let's get that out in the open. But it's still early. It's still early, and they're still so young. But that's what they decided to go with. And, Tibbs has got them doing stuff. That was a hire where he said, I'm going to go in and change the culture, and they're either going to play the way I want them to play, or they're young. They don't have the guys on the team, again, like a Julius Randle. He has no cachet. It's not like I can say I'm not going to play your way. Well, we can get rid of you. And that's where Thibodeau is at his best when he's got guys that are under his control. And I think that's what he's got there. He's got guys that are under his control. They're going to play his style of ball. If you don't, you're going to sit the bench. You're going to find somebody else for you to play. Having said that, it's still way too early. But again, it's better than what it has been. So they're building something there, which is nice because, as you and I know, they haven't been building anything there in quite some time. They run people in, they run people out, they run people in, they run people out, and there never seems to be anything that they're really trying to do. But it looks like they're building something there. On the other side, I don't know. It's so, you lose Dinwiddie, which is going to be a bigger thing than what you think. Because here's what normally happens. At some point, Kyrie's going to miss a month. Just the history of it. That's what normally happens. And when you had Dinwiddie, you had that backup to make, we can kind of make that transition. Without him, it's going to be tough. With load management and whatever, it looks like Durant right now is stable and happy and bald, which is interesting to see. But he is going to be able to go out and play. Kevin Durant, old? No, really? Yeah. But he's able to do what he does without being explosive. Not to say he wasn't explosive, not to say he's not explosive now. But his game, we were talking about Luka Doncic before, it's not relying on being that great athlete. He's just freaking, 8-foot tall Spider-Man out there. So it's kind of hard to check him. But I don't know about the rest of the squad because they put so much emphasis on those two that it's like watching Detroit go, oh, hey, it's the new year. Blake Griffin must be out. It's what's going to happen. Blake Griffin's going to get hurt by January 1st. Kyrie's going to miss a month or so just because that's the way it goes. And it's going to be, can Kevin Durant carry the whole squad? We'll see. But right now, both New York teams look good. Everybody happy? Good. It's good for New York to do well.
Don, any thoughts on Kevin Durant in New York City with the flat Earth guy?
I love Durant, because he's a Longhorn, but he has, I think, performed better than I thought he would coming from the injury. Because when you rupture an Achilles, that's something that usually knocks you out 50%. It's like a 50-50 if you come back, and I think he's on the right path. So very possible he might have two New York teams in the final. It's still a long season, but I like the odds.
Well, guys, let's talk a little NFL before we talk playoffs. And, of course, I've got to start with the Dwayne Haskins situation. Number one pick didn't get nothing. Tell him to kick rocks. Don, your thoughts?
Uh, you know, they used to say that Ryan Leaf was the biggest bust ever. Got drafted before Peyton Manning. But Haskins might be giving Ryan Leaf a run for the money for the biggest bust. I thought Haskins would be. I wasn't expecting to be a star this year. I expected, he would probably end up being a starter, but I did not see that coming. Just a total, gone. I mean, that's just it's kind of mind boggling because he was successful in college. I mean, he was a baller. I don't know. Maybe he just couldn't adjust to the game in the NFL. I don't know if it was the situation in Washington. It could have been the plethora of all kind of stuff. But he's still young. Maybe somebody will take a chance on him next year. We'll see. But it's just mind-boggling how that went down in Washington.
Frank, I mean, this is Ron Rivera here now. Before when we were talking about RG3, it might have been a little different animal, but I'm not gonna put words in your mouth.
Well, I look at it. Okay, and this is the guy that kept Joe Burrow on the bench at Ohio State, made Joe Burrow transfer. Throws for 50 touchdowns in the Big Ten. That in and of itself is an impressive feat. If you say he threw for 30 touchdowns, you can say the Big Ten was down. You don't throw for 50 touchdowns in the season unless you know what you're doing. It could be a great offense. You can have great receivers. You can have all the stuff. 50 touchdowns is pretty tough to do. So you've got to have the talent to do that. Now, you hear the rumors that, he should have went back to his hometown. I don't know about that. I don't know what happens there. The strip club incident, just moments, hours after playing a game. If you can handle it, you can handle it. If you can't, you can't. I don't know. It's the Lou Williams, I want to get something to eat at the strip club thing. Who knows? But and you're throwing in Ryan Leaf. I throw in Jamarcus Russell with that as well. A guy that just didn't really documented, that just didn't really care about what he was doing and didn't put in the time to study or whatever. That's what you're hearing about Haskins. But the thing is, you didn't hear that about him before. So did the money, did being at home, did he think that he achieved what he had to achieve? I have no idea. I do know this. Josh Rosen got another chance. Mariota got another chance. Jameis Winston got another chance. Unless he has burned bridges so badly, he's going to get another shot. Johnny Manziel got another chance. He's going to get an opportunity somewhere. We mentioned RG3. RG3 got another chance. Someone will pick him up at some point when it's not detrimental to what they do. Is he going to get guaranteed money? Oh, no. But he's going to get a chance to find a roster spot someplace and show up there. Will it happen this year? No. Will it happen next year? Maybe, maybe not. He has to prove to a GM and a coach that he can be relied upon. And has to go to whomever and say, this is what I did, and I'm not going to do it again. I promise you. What that was, I have no idea. Again, I'm not privy to the situation. I know there are a lot of rumors and a lot of things going on, but whatever it was, as you mentioned, Ron Rivera doesn't play, but Ron Rivera is going to go with whatever the best option is for him, as well as Jack Del Rio. So the combination of those two guys that know the NFL, and they knew that Dwayne Haskins wasn't for them. When you are in a playoff hunt and they would rather start Taylor Heineke or Heineke or however you pronounce his name, and not only just bench you, but kick you off of the team. you must have done something really, really bad. You must have really made Ron Rivera very upset with you. And they must have thought, we can't trust you. Alex Smith may not be able to go. Probably won't be able to go. We're going to get this guy we just picked up off the street and have him play instead of giving you another chance. We can't trust you that much. So whatever it is, he has to fix it. Because it doesn't sound like it's, to me, Ron Rivera is going to play who he has to play. And if he doesn't think that you're going to help him at all and kick you off the team, whew, that's a tough thing.
Staying with you, Frank. Bieniemy. Once again, we see head coach opening jobs. We see him getting plenty of interviews. So on the roulette wheel, where does Bieniemy end up, or does he stay in Kansas City?
You know what? I think he stays in Kansas City. I don't think that he has to take one of these jobs. I don't think that any of these jobs are going to appeal to him right now. And Don, you can attest to this. You're from the Colorado, Texas kind of, that era. Remember Bieniemy as a player, the rugged little pig, or is what they called him, or whatever it was. 5'6" tailback that ran over people. Okay, this is a tough guy. And he was talented as a player. And some of the stuff that he comes up with, or if it's him and Andy Reid, I don't know. But some of the stuff he comes up with, it's not just that he has talent to work with. It helps that he does, that he's got, 8 skill positions on the position players on the field at the same time. That's impressive in itself. But they use everybody. That also might be Patrick Mahomes. But it's a setup to where they use guys that you went, who's this guy? Where'd this Robinson guy come from? How did he get on the roster? They just threw 3 passes to a tight end that I don't know. That's something that he's going to have to prove that it's him. I think he'll get a chance, or an opportunity will come his way, but I think that he's going to be content to be able to do what he does. It doesn't seem like he's in a rush to get out of there. And it doesn't seem like he's in an uncomfortable situation. So rather than go to a team that you've got to rebuild the whole thing, I think he might pick and choose, and I don't know if this is the year for him to go.
What do you think, Don? Does he stay in Kansas City?
Well, his name came up when Texas was looking for a head football coach, and of course Sarkisian got it. He's too good to stay as an offensive coordinator, in my opinion. He needs to have a head job somewhere. It wouldn't bother me. It would not bother me to see him in Houston. It would not bother to see him in Dallas. I think Dallas might be changing coaches again, just from things I'm seeing. Of course, if you work for Jerry Jones, you better have some thick skin.
Right.
But there's going to be some opportunities here pretty soon in NFL, and I think his time has come to head up a franchise.
Yeah, we've been saying that, but I don't know. I don't think it's for lack of opportunities, but when you go to the Super Bowl back to back, and hey.
Yeah. Now, going back to college, I don't know if I knew this, but I actually played against Bieniemy. 1989, we were up in Colorado at Boulder, Folsom Field, and Bieniemy had a great game, and they had another running back named J.J. Flanagan, who was awesome. Quarterback, I believe, was Darren Harrigan, and then they had a guy named Cordell Stewart that was playing as well. So, so the University of Colorado, their football team has hit hard times. They when Bill McCartney was there, they were kicking some serious ass.
Yeah,
was that with Canavis McGee and Alfred Williams? And that was a nice team. Yeah,
those defensive ends, yes, they were. Well, the year after that, they won a national championship. So
Chad Brown, yeah, that was a nice team.
Don, let's talk about Miami. They pulled Tua in the last game of the season, of course. But I think he had thrown 3 interceptions. But they also, we talked about this earlier. Whether they should put Tua in under that pressure. But once they got in that kind of playoff mode where they were thinking playoffs. But Don, now once again we come down to a situation with the Dolphins. They do have the number 3 pick. I think they got it from Houston. I'm not sure, but I know they have the number 3 pick. So Don, what do we do with Tua? Do we keep Tua? Do we take a quarterback at number 3? Who's the quarterback for Miami next year?
Well, Miami could risk getting into that trap that the Browns got into several years ago, where every year they were taking the quarterback, and they finally, I guess, struck gold with Mayfield. Yes, begins with the M. But Baker Mayfield, and Baker struggled his first 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden he's come along. I mean, who thought that they would win 10 games, right? So I think Tua has some gifts similar to Mayfield. I don't know if Miami wants to give up on him just yet. I think that different people develop at different rates. Of course, NFL the pressure is to win now and not wait. But like I said, Cleveland was patient with Mayfield. I think Miami should do as well with Tua, because you don't want to keep getting quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. If they want to, sign a free agent, in the offseason, a solid backup veteran, that would probably be something to do. But, I would not, draft a quarterback this soon. I would just kind of let the process play out. Maybe surround him with, get some offensive line picks, or maybe, receiver or 2. But it's always good to have a good running game as well. So, there's a lot of options that Miami could exercise if they wanted to.
Frank, to Tua or not to Tua?
Well, here's what I think. There are 2 ways of, I always say this, but it's true. There are 2 ways of looking at this. One, that quarterback room seems to be in harmony with Tua and Fitzpatrick. So I look at that as being, when you brought in Marino and you still had Don Strock. I'm trying to keep it Miami here. The kid comes in and does what he has to do, but we still got the other guy just in case. Just in case. Because if you're not completely sold on him, as far as his health and his durability and whatnot, you may have to go a game with Fitzpatrick. You may have to go a series or a quarter or whatever. So that's a good situation, I think. And it gets you another year or 2 to find out whether he's the guy, whether Tua's the guy or not. And I think what you have, if you're number 3, here's what we need. And let's not forget something that's very important. Brian Flores has done a heck of a job down there. They look like they've got an idea of what their mentality, what their capacity is, what their character is going to be. So I think he set up something like that. So I think what you do is you package that pick with a few more, and then you stockpile offensive linemen. You can get a right tackle easier and cheaper than you get a left tackle, and you've got a left-handed quarterback. Go get your right tackle. That may be a second-round pick as opposed to going the first-round pick to get a left tackle. Maybe then with that first-round pick, you either package it, or you go get maybe some defensive help, or maybe you get a left tackle, or maybe you get a D lineman. You get someone that can help you out to do some things, or maybe you get a wide receiver that can help him out. I don't know. But I think they're sitting pretty, and I don't think that you have to worry about unless you're concerned, if you're Brian Flores, is I don't know if Tua's the guy. I've seen him play in the NFL. He looks serviceable. Does he look like a superstar? No. But what was their record this year? They were 10-6? That ain't bad. That's not bad. They haven't gone 10-6 in a while. So, even with their little quarterback carousel there, again, those guys look like they're happy for each other. I think Fitzpatrick is just about to the point where he's like, yeah, I'm going to bring the golf clubs. If you want me to play. If not, I'm cool. So I think they're in a good situation. I think it is Tua, and, maybe another couple of years it won't be. But right now I think you got to stick with it.
Speaking of sticking with what's coming up in a year and all that, can you explain to me the logic, Frank, of pulling Jalen Hurts?
No. That's about the easiest answer I've ever had. No, I can't. If Carson Wentz is not the answer, and you owe him a boatload of cash, and if you don't think Carson Wentz is the answer, then I think you believe Jalen Hurts is the answer. Or you're going to find that out. I don't think what you need to find out in that particular part of that particular game, whether Nate Sudfeld is going to be your backup for next year. That is not a thing where we need to see if he could perform under pressure. Bowl cookies. This guy, and no offense to Nate Sudfeld, he is not going to be a starter. He is not going to be the guy that you're going to hang your hat on down the road. It's possible that he's going to show you something in that amount of time, but I really doubt it. Now, if you're Doug Peterson, you've risked losing your team. You've risked losing the confidence from your management. Even though Howie Roseman has backed him up, you risked losing your fan base. You've risked a lot for one guy to play a few minutes in a game just because. You can get Nate Sudfeld, the Taylor Heineke thing. You can find that guy someplace. Again, that's not a knock on that guy. He's playing quarterback in the NFL. I'm not. But it's just that he's not the guy that say, I have to find out about him here. You can find out what you need to find about him in 7-on-7 drills in the spring. You don't need to do it at that particular time. So I don't understand that move at all. And I usually say, I'm not the one running the show, so he knows more than I do. That one baffled me.
Don, what are you thinking there? Spite the Cowboys? What? I mean,
Yeah, well, Cowboys, that's a whole different. So talk about Carson Wentz first. You talk about a guy, and I can't remember who it was we used to have on the show. Wasn't Kalani, it was someone else that said Carson Wentz was going to be the next superstar in the NFL. In his rookie season, he had put up great numbers, showed great promise, and then it fell apart. And we've seen this happen before, where you'll have a player who's dynamic, has but defenses figure them out real quick, and next thing you know, the QB rating goes down significantly. Cowboys, if you want to talk about the Cowboys, the Giants, that whole NFC Eastern Conference is. But I mean, the Cowboys were playing for a playoff spot. I think they won 4 games. What the hell? I mean, that's not what it's supposed to be, I'm hoping maybe the Cowboys can get the Jones from Alabama. That I think that'd be a great fit. We'll see. I'm not sure. I hope Dak comes back, because Dak was, having a decent year until he got hurt. But that's one of those injuries you just don't know. You just don't know. Get your insurance.
Don, I'm gonna keep it in Texas here because Deshaun Watson also has a new GM. Uh, put up spectacular numbers as usual, but hey, it's still an also ran. He'll be sitting at home watching the playoffs just like I will. Uh, what's your thoughts on Deshaun Watson next year? Is he still going to be a Texan? I'd love to see him in a Steeler uniform, but
Yeah. Well, you might get your wish. You never know. Deshaun, I'm a big Deshaun Watson fan ever since when he was at Clemson and that magical year he had his senior year. And he's shown that in Houston when he's healthy. Houston's good. But this year he's been healthy and they're still losing, which, is mind-boggling. I know there's a lot of, their offensive line has been kind of shabby. Their defense lets them down in big games. J.J. Watt had to have a little come to Jesus talk with the defense. He's gone public with it. And I hate it when players do that, but sometimes it's needed. And I kind of trust J.J. Watt's motivation. He's not, he's not going to blow smoke up someone's ass just to do it. He's there to win. But there's a mixture of talent in Houston with the right coach, the right staff, the right GM. Houston can win. They're not that far off, to be honest, talent-wise on paper. They just need to find someone to, take those ingredients, bake it at the perfect temperature, and get this, this cake with lots of icing on it, and serve it.
Frank, what's your thoughts on Deshaun Watson? I mean, they're playing in a rather weak division that's usually only going to get one shot, one team out of that conference. Of course, we've seen this year with this particular playoffs, the AFC North has 3 teams in the playoffs. Everybody but Cincinnati. So, what's your thoughts on Deshaun Watson and the competitiveness of that division? I'm kind of at a loss for words on why every year they're the second or third best team in that division.
Well, the first thing Deshaun has to do is learn the phrase "no comment." That would be helpful because he's honest. And they ask him a question, he says something, and you go, "You didn't need to bring that up. You didn't know. Just say no comment." That'll make it a lot easier for They hired a GM and didn't tell you about it. What do you think? Well, they didn't. No, just no comment. Just let it go. But the second thing is that team always seems to have health issues. When's the last time we'll be able to say, "Hey, J.J. Watt played how many games this year?" And again, and as Don said, J.J. Watt has the come to Jesus meeting with everybody, and he is a man's man. He's going to tell it like it is. But part of that is also saying, "Hey, JJ, if you're going to come to me and tell me what I'm supposed to do, maybe your butt should be on the field more than 7 times a season." Now, they're freak injuries. I get that. But when you start saying that your best player, maybe your seminal player for the last 10 years, is injury prone, you can't rely on that guy. So that's a part of the problem with that team is that they can't rely on the team they're going to put on the field week to week to week to week. They haven't been able to do that. And I know that's the nature of the NFL. I get that. But your stars have to be able to perform on a weekly basis. The second thing is the new GM is going to have to say, "Hey, we've got guys that can play. Let's keep them here instead of shipping our best wide receiver, maybe the best wide receiver in the game. Let's leave. Just go someplace else with no compensation." If I'm Deshaun Watson, I don't understand that move at all, and I understand why you're saying, you're saying what you're saying. You got rid of my best weapon. And you brought in David Johnson. What? How did you? Huh? Okay, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So you get to those decisions, you make better decisions for the team. And there might have been reasons why you shipped the guy out. It might have been contract, it might have been personality, whatever. I get that. But he balled in Arizona, so I don't think that's that's not a good thing when you ship out great players and bring in mediocre players. So you have to, and again, it's the same thing we said it with Miami. You have to establish your identity. Who are you and who are you trying to be? And I think Don said it best. You don't know what's going on in Houston because you don't know. So I think Deshaun can get the job done, as you said, in a weak division, but I think somebody else around him has to start making better decisions.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Somebody around him has to start making the best decisions. Well, round one of the playoffs is starting this week. Frank, which quarterback do you think is under the most pressure to win in this first round?
Well, I was looking at this, and it's easy to say Trubisky because he's got to get something done or they're going to try and replace him. It's easy to say Tom Brady because that's what they brought Tom Brady in to be, this guy. But I think that it's Jared Goff. I really do, because you're in a position again to succeed. And we've built the team around you to succeed. And you're just at that age where you're not young enough to where we can think you're still growing, but you're not veteran enough to think you know it all, or we think you know. So Jared Goff, I think, has to step up and say, we're going to the next level because of me. So I think he's under the most pressure. He may not have to play the best game, but I think he's under the most pressure to lead this team to victory.
What do you think, Don?
Yeah, that's a good assessment. I think Goff is, he's one of those guys that, again, he's kind of come across a little bit slower than they expected, but they were patient, and he's making some good decisions, and they're in playoffs. So I agree with Frank's assessment on that.
Let's get some predictions here. We're going to start with our Saturday games, of course. So let's see here. Let me pull up a schedule here. Okay, Saturday, our first game, Don, is going to be Indianapolis at Buffalo. Talking about quarterback matchups, we have the old veteran Phillip Rivers taking Indianapolis to the playoffs. Actually, I think they might have backed their way in, but either way, they're there. And he's playing against the young Mr. Allen. We've talked about Allen all season. Stephon Diggs, of course, I think had more catches or more yards than any receiver in the league this year. Unfortunately, they didn't bring in the running game with them, but they brought a pretty stout defense. So, Don, quarterback matchup, defensive matchup, who you got?
Well, because of COVID, the home field doesn't really mean a whole lot because there's really no fans. But I believe they are playing in Buffalo, and so I'm going to go with the home field. I think Buffalo they've won 12, 13 games this year. They're there for a reason. So I think it's going to be a good game, but I'm going to go with the Bills.
Frank, what do you think about the quarterback matchup? The Colts, they've been playing some pretty stout defense, but is Buffalo just going to overpower them in this matchup? I see Phillip Rivers as kind of like another Big Ben. He's never been mobile, and that Buffalo Mafia defense is going to be on his ass.
Well, I think the thing with Phillip Rivers, and you mentioned that perfectly, he's never been mobile, and now he's old and not mobile. That's not a good combination. It's one thing to get old and get less mobile, but if you're getting old and being less mobile from no mobile, I don't even know if there's a phrase for that. Philip Rivers always has done is anticipate his throws because let's face it, the mechanics are weird and a lot of stuff that he does are just okay. But he sees a guy open before the play is there and makes the play. He can't do that against his team. These guys are really good. He can't do that. I think we're looking at maybe a couple of picks too many for Philip Rivers in this one. On the other hand, you've got the Buffalo team who hasn't been this, I don't know, exciting I don't know if that's the right word, but since the K-Gun years with Jim Kelly. Actually, I was going to go back to the Joe Ferguson and OJ years. I mean, they have the right flavor of what they're trying to do. And Josh Allen is the X factor. So, and obviously Stephon Diggs and some other players. But I think just there's too much for Buffalo.
The second matchup on Saturday. Huh?
If New England was normally New England, New England
you broke up a little bit there, but I'm thinking that, like you were saying, if New England wasn't New England, Buffalo might not be where they are. But Frank, the second game, of course, Los Angeles at Seattle, and as far as I know right now, Jared Goff is not going to be playing quarterback for the Rams due to that broken thumb. But what do you think, Frank? The Rams at the Seahawks. Frank seems to be froze on me for the minute there. Don, you want to take that one?
Yeah, Russell Wilson's playing, so that's all. That's good enough for me. So I go Seahawks.
Okay. I think Frank went out, so you might have to check back in. Okay. Let's see, and also Saturday we have. See, I know we play Sunday, so I don't have to worry about Tampa Bay at Washington. The old man has thrown 40 touchdowns this year so far, and he's playing against Washington team, Alex Smith, a Washington team that managed to survive and win the division. So, who you got, Brady or the Washington football team?
I got to go with the old man Brady. Washington, like I said, the NFC East. If this were a world where fairness was respected, there would be no teams in the NFC East in the playoffs. But I mean, Washington is the best of the worst. So I got to go with Tom Brady on that one.
Frank, I see you got back here. So, of course, we're talking about Tom Brady against Washington. And the other game that we touched on, of course, was who is this? The Rams at the Seahawks. And the Rams, we're talking about the Rams without Jared Goff due to the thumb injury. So, does that change your mind any about the outcome of that playoff game, Frank?
No, I still think that, I haven't. Are we sure that Goff isn't going to play? Because I haven't heard that he's definitely out. But if that's the case, well, that gets rid of the first answer I gave a couple of minutes ago. But I think Seattle, they're going to let Russ cook, and that's going to be it. Seattle is just, even though they're not the Seattle team from a few years ago, they're the better team right now. And the Washington football team against the Buccaneers, this is why they put this team together. The Buccaneers, not the Washington football team. This is why they put this team together. It wasn't for the regular season. It wasn't for seeding in the playoffs. It was to make the run. So if this is going to be their run, this is what they're going to do. So expect Brady to play. All Brady has to do is be mediocre. He doesn't have to be fantastic. But he's got Evans and Gronk and Godwin and all those guys. The running game gets going. They're in good shape. The defense has to play well. And as Don said, they're playing the least of the least. So, or the beast of the least, or whatever you want to call it.
The best of the worst.
The best of the worst. This one shouldn't be problematic for Tampa, but this is how they get themselves in the right frame of mind to go back, to go further. Sorry.
Okay. Sunday. And that means that my Steelers are playing. So I'm going to ask a couple questions here. And Frank, excuse me, Don, I have to come to you first on this because we saw Mason. He played a good game Sunday.
Yeah, he played better than I thought he would.
I'll second that opinion. But I find my Steelers in a very precarious situation. And you know, it goes back to what I was saying about Phillip Rivers. Not that Big Ben was that mobile before, but at least he had the ability to throw guys off of him, to be able to stand upright in the pocket. And I find that a problem this year. But I don't see Mason as necessarily being the replacement. Now we have a young guy named Dobbs, but here's my dilemma. I don't think, and I know a lot of Pittsburgh fans have gotten on me for this. I don't think that we should give Big Ben $30 million plus next season. He does deserve something. Now, I would give him, maybe something with some bonuses and things like that, and maybe he could reach $30 million, but that's not how the salary cap works in the NFL. So, if we say $33 million, we have to give him $33 million. So, Don, what do you think? How do the Steelers look setting up for the draft next year? Do you think we should take a quarterback? Do you think that we should take a free agent? And then you can give us your prediction about round 3, Browns versus Steelers.
Well, you kind of stated the obvious. Ben is not, this isn't 10 years ago. Ben he's getting up in age, long in the tooth, whatever you want to call it. But I think they'll still beat. I think they'll beat Cleveland next year. On Sunday. I mean, they could have beat Cleveland this bit, but we're sitting out Pouncey, the center, and that Cleveland was able to get a lot of pressure in the backfield because they didn't have the starting center there. So I think Pittsburgh will handle the Browns, and as far as next year, the quarterback position, I think Mason has still come around. But again, you want insurance, right? There are some quarterbacks. This is actually not a bad year for your quarterbacks, and so if Pittsburgh wanted to get a quarterback, I'm sure they could. You got several out there for taking, but I'm with you. I don't see giving Roethlisberger $33 million. If he were 24, 25 years old, yeah, I would. But no, I mean, I don't be guilty of ageism, but I mean, I'm not worth $33 million.
Well, Frank, as a Browns fan, you're probably glad to kind of see us in this dilemma, considering the fact that you
just lost him again.
Yeah, we did just lose him again. So let's carry on and get these second games here. We covered the Browns and the Steelers. This should be a great game. Lamar Jackson against Tennessee. Don, here's one where Lamar Jackson is 0-2 in the playoffs. Does he go to 0-3, or does he finally break through?
I think he breaks through. I love watching the Browns. They got so many weapons on offense, and Lamar Jackson's one of them. I think that this year that he gets his first playoff win.
Frank, does Lamar Jackson get his first playoff win? I see you trying there. You might have to go on and come back one more time. Try clicking on and off one more time, Frank. Let's see. Okay. Maybe we'll be able to get him back on. We'll see. Okay. And the final game there would be Chicago at New Orleans.
I can't go against I cannot go against New Orleans right now. I love the way they use Taysom Hill to give a Breeze the breaks and stuff. I'm hoping that a team will pick up Sam Ellinger at UT and kind of use that same scheme that they do with Hill. So I'm going to go with the Saints in that one.
Oh, okay. Frank, can we get you back in now? Let's see. Frank, can you hear us? Hello? Wow, right at the end there. Okay. Don, as usual, always good to have you. I'm assuming that you're on. You're taking some breaks until the next season starts. Frank, can you hear us yet? Frank, just join us whenever you can. Don, as I was saying, you evidently must be on a little break here, because I know you're always involved in youth sports. So why don't you give us your final thoughts and tell us how you felt about 2020.
Well, so right now, my final thoughts. We got a lot of excitement surrounding UT football with hiring Steve Sarkisian and his new staff. But what's become overlooked right now is Texas basketball. Shaka Smart has Longhorns number 4 in the nation right now. They beat the living shit out of Kansas, which hasn't. They have Kansas is Kansas, so hook them on the basketball.
Damn, Don, when's the last time you guys beat Kansas? You must have had hair.
Durant played.
It's okay. All right.
Durant's sophomore season, because he went pro after that, or no, maybe it's freshman season. They split with Kansas 1-1.
Oh, okay.
And then that's the last time they beat Kansas. So Texas now a basketball school. Thank you, Shaka Smart. My thoughts of 2020. Well, it was there's certain years in American history kind of stand out, and I'm thinking like 1860, 1968, now 2020. Just certain years just kind of stick in your mind. 2021 is not starting off any better, I don't think, but we'll see. It's still early, but that's my thoughts on 2020.
All right, Don. Well, hey, thank you so much, man. I hope you're around to join us next week. And hey, I guess I have to say, check your spam.
Yeah, check my spam. Exactly.
I'll be sending you a new link soon. We have another.
Well, I took this link and I saved it in my my favorite bar. So hopefully, if it's the same link for each show, right?
I'm not sure with this one. We're using StreamYard this year instead of Ecamm, so it might be a new one each week. But I'll put that in the email for you and let you know also.
Appreciate it.
I'm kind of learning right along with you guys. So,
Good night.
so, all right. Thanks a lot, Don. We'll talk to you next week. Frank, are you back there? Are you still are you in limbo, or can we talk now? Is you is or is you ain't? Well, let's see. Maybe he'll come right back, and we can get him in before we end the broadcast. Try me one more again, Frank. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the podcast tonight. I hope you, as 2021 goes on, we'll get more use, a little more use to this application, and provide you with some good entertainment and some good questions. Thank everyone for listening. And if you have any questions, you can submit them to us on our Facebook page, which is the Sports Crib Network. We are also on my page on Facebook, James E. King III. And if you want to catch us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel, it's the Sports Crib or James E. King III. So have a great night, everyone. We look forward to talking to you again next week, right here on the Sports Crib.